Hello and welcome to this special video. I mentioned in the most recent podcast that I've been participating in dozens of video conference style meetups since the virus emerged and created a shelter-in-place order from our local public health departments. And I thought that it would be a great topic for a video if I shared some of my ideas about being a better video conference participant. So I'll cover some of the common sense things that I alluded to on the podcast, as well as a few technical aspects of setting up your audio and video that you might want to consider. I want to mention before I get started in earnest that the vast majority of participants that I've been in meetings with do everything that I'm covering here right already. This is really intended for people who maybe are new to video conferencing or maybe just want some tips or reminders. So with all that being said, my meetings over the past 2 or so months have all been pretty casual, but this information could really apply to just about any category of meeting, whether it be for work, volunteer, just hanging out with friends, instructional, really anything that you might meet online with other people for. So first, let's talk about the platforms that we're using. I'm talking about Zoom, Webex, Skype, Google Hangouts, and pretty much any other platform that you can meet online with. They'll have some common features. Now, it's a really good idea to download any programs or apps that you need well in advance of your meeting so that you can have a basic understanding of these features before you meet. If the program allows it, try poking around on there first. You can usually test your settings without having to be in a meeting. Use this feature to set up your camera and your microphone. This is also a good time to get familiar with the controls. The most important controls that we'll talk about are for the camera and microphone to turn them on and off. Usually somewhere on your screen, there's a little microphone icon that turns your microphone on and off. It shouldn't be too hard to figure out which setting is on and which setting is off. The same goes for your camera icon. It's usually right next to the microphone and it's on or off. Know where these are. It's best to enter a meeting with your microphone turned off and your camera turned on. That way, any noise activating the microphone on your device won't interfere with the meeting, especially for meetings that are already in progress. If you enter a meeting and your microphone is turned on and it picks up sounds from your room, it will interrupt anyone who's already actively talking. Would you do that in a real-life meeting? I don't think so. As a matter of fact, it's a great idea to always leave your microphone muted unless you're talking. Likewise, if you need to step away from your computer and go do something else, it's a great idea to just turn your camera off as well as your microphone, if it's not already off, and then just when you get back, turn them back on. Or at least turn your camera back on so people know that you're back at the table, back at the meeting. Another good feature to cover is the viewing setting. If you look on the screen, you can usually find this in the upper right corner, and it consists of a series of usually at least 2 icons. Each one will give you a different view. Speaker view gives you the video from the person who's actively speaking full screen, and then it changes whenever someone else talks. Grid view gives you a bunch of little boxes with all the participants visible, or at least as many as can fit onto your screen during the meeting. You might have to scroll between more than one page to see all the participants. If this is the case, some kind of arrow icon appears on usually the right side of your screen to get to the next page of participants. Something else that might be helpful is called the pin feature. If someone is talking and you don't want that view to change, you can find the option settings in the box of the person that you're trying to pin, click that, and tell the program that you want to pin this person, and then that's who you'll see until you unpin them. Sometimes the meeting owner will do this for you, and sometimes a presenter gets pinned automatically when they're sharing their screen with the group. And then finally, there should be a little icon that looks like an old comic strip speaking box. This icon usually turns on the text chat window. which is especially good for sharing links or making comments without interrupting the speaker by typing it out instead. This is a great tool to use if you're in a meeting with someone else presenting and you want to make a comment or share information without interrupting them. So our top secret production assistant came up with a great list of do's and don'ts to cover in this program. So let's talk about those next. Do enter the meeting on time with your video on and your microphone muted. Don't let household noises like dogs barking, birds chirping, people talking interfere with your designated meeting space. Do keep your camera source, whether it be a phone, laptop, or desktop, steady throughout the meeting so that other participants don't get motion sick. Don't situate your camera source too low. No one, and I mean no one, enjoys the up-the-nose shot. You can raise your camera simply by putting books or a box or something under your laptop if you're using a laptop. Or if you're using a webcam, you can just put it up higher. Or if you're using a phone, you can use one of these handy clamp things that I have. You can get these on Amazon and they'll clamp just about anywhere. Do have a good light source behind the camera and avoid having light sources like windows or lamps behind you. This will ensure that people can see you when you're talking. If you don't have a light to put behind the camera, just make sure that there isn't a bright light in your picture otherwise. This confuses your webcam and people won't be able to see you. Don't move around or through your house with your camera source. Yeah, it's true, you can take your phone or your laptop into the bathroom with you, but it's probably better not to risk the embarrassment of accidentally leaving the camera or microphone on while you're taking care of your business.
Wait a minute, is that John? Are you in the bathroom?
Instead, simply turn your camera off to let people know you're not there right now, and then do what you have to do, and when you come back, turn the camera back on. Do sit in a chair that does not move. Rolling chairs and rocking chairs make it really distracting to other participants when a lot of motion is occurring on one of those little video frames. Don't eat unless it's a virtual lunch meeting. We've had plenty of those and eating is expected. Do conduct yourself as if you were in a similar meeting in person by not drinking alcohol or smoking or vaping or using foul language unless it's extremely casual, like friends hanging out. But seriously, I mean, you wouldn't do these kind of things in any in-person meeting, right? That was an official group meeting. So why would you do it on a virtual one? Don't be hesitant to speak up. That's usually what everyone is there for. Some find it hard in the more casual meetings to figure out when to jump in with a comment or a contribution. And some software allows you to raise your hand electronically or somehow signal that you want to talk. You might even just simply raise your hand on camera to get a turn. I've been in meetings where that's the norm. Do make sure that you have the best internet connection possible at the time of your meeting. A lagging video and audio feed makes it not only more difficult for the other participants to listen and respond to, but it can also make it harder for you to contribute when you want to. Don't share your desktop unless you're asked to or you're making a presentation that requires it. Do use the text chat window that I talked about earlier to share links, documents, or other additional or conversational comments. It's also important to know that some programs allow the meeting owner to see all the messages that are sent privately too. So be careful what you're sending in your private messages. Don't sit in front of or use a backdrop photo that's too visually busy. You're harder to pick out on a tiny video screen if there's a lot of pattern and color behind you. A contrasting shirt can help you stand out if a more plain background isn't readily available. Do follow your moderator's meeting guidelines. And finally, have fun and be productive. Okay, so I thought I'd give you an idea of what my setup looks like so that you can sort of base what you want to do off of that if you want. The first thing you'll notice is I have my camera up here. This is about at eye level. I've found that in doing production that people tend to look the best if you're right at eye level or maybe slightly higher than eye level. So the up the nose shot thing is a real dilemma for me. Now you'll also notice if you look at the setup that I have an external microphone. This microphone sounds better than the microphone that's built into the computer, and 9 times out of 10, almost any external microphone will sound better than the one that's built into your computer. Something else that's worth trying is if you have a set of headphones, use them. Because sometimes if you have your speaker turned up, your microphone can pick that up and can create an endless loop. And it's a real problem if you're trying to listen to someone give a presentation and they're feeding back through your speakers. Of course, muting your microphone when you're not talking is a great way to avoid that as well, and really should be done especially if you're not going to use headphones. And then the last thing I'll point out here is up here, you'll see that I have this little LED. This is an adjustable light, and my webcam that I have here is sensitive enough that I don't need to have this turned up very high. So I will use this when needed on this lowest setting, and that way it's not a distraction, because it gets very bright when it's turned up all the way. I mean, bright enough that it's hard to look at. So hopefully that'll give you an idea of how you can set yours up just by sort of taking some ideas of how I have mine set up. So we've given you a lot of pointers here. Do you have to follow all of them? Of course not. But it makes for a far less distracting, less annoying, more respectful, more productive, and more enjoyable meeting or online get-together if you do. So did we forget anything? If you can think of something I left out on this video, put it in the comment section below. As always, I thank you for your continued support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.